Well, in college football's final game of week one, six-time Super Bowl champion coach Bill Belichick makes his North Carolina and college football debut when the Tar Heels take on the TCU Horned Frogs tonight. Belichick compiled a 302-165 coaching record in the NFL, but will that success be able to be replicated at the college ranks? We'll find out soon enough. For much more on what to expect tonight, let's go ahead and say hello to Chip Patterson and John Talty. Guys, it's great to see you. I know we've had some time to process this hire, obviously, but I do feel like seeing Bill Belichick on the college football sideline is going to be something to get used to. How are you feeling ahead of this era, John?
It's weird. It's still weird to think about. Like you said, we've had 9 months to think about it, but sometimes you see photos of Belichick talking to a recruit, and you're like, is this AI? Is this a real image that I'm looking at? It seems so foreign, imagining this cranky guy that we remember of the Patriots now having to be a part of a college community. But it's exciting. There's a lot of buzz around this game, and I think there's high beliefs of what Belichick is going to be capable of doing in year one and beyond.
Obviously, in classic Belichick fashion, Jordan, it was very locked down on information, especially early. We had no numbers on the uniforms during the spring showcase, so we couldn't even tell what the personnel was going to look like. You know, we've had heavy transfer portal in bringing in new players, 70 new faces on the roster since the end of last season. But the more and more that we've continued to dig, hear stories, and get a little bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes in the preparation for the 2025 season, this is a football junkie. He just can't quit. He loves this game. He loves teaching this game. You go out to the practice fields, and it is just the sound of his whistle echoing and just constant working on the details. Now, putting this all together, getting a game plan to be taken by a college roster as opposed to pros, and then putting it in place on a massive stage, what some people are calling one of the biggest stages of the 21st century for North Carolina football, that will be the challenge that is yet to be seen. But I am actually less surprised now because this is a guy who is addicted to this sport, and now it's North Carolina that's seeing if they can help him live that out with some success.
And we know how successful and what a legend Bill Belichick is at the highest level. However, the college ranks are different, but at the end of the day, football is football, right? But what should be our realistic expectations, John, for the Bill Belichick era in Chapel Hill?
I'm very bullish on what Bill Belichick, I think, can do in Chapel Hill. I think out of all of the CBS Sports people, I ranked him the highest in our head coach rankings. I had him in the top 25. Some people had him at the very bottom of 136. So I think that it is going to translate over. And as you look at that schedule there, it just feels like there are a lot of very easily winnable games. I mean, Charlotte, Richmond, we saw UCF put up a stinker in their first game. California has issues. Virginia, Syracuse. Like when you look at the kind of the upper echelon teams in the ACC, or at least what we believe they will be, they don't have a lot of them on UNC's schedule. Clemson, I was at that game on Saturday. They have some things they need to work through. North Carolina doesn't have Miami. They don't have SMU. There's just a lot of games when you look at them that it feels like, you know, this is an 8 or 9 win team, maybe even more. I mean, Clemson will be very tough. Duke could be tough, NC State. But I think there's a path to a 10-2 type year if this team translates the way we think it could with all of the well-regarded transfers they brought in, led by Gio Lopez, their quarterback that they took from South Alabama, that people are very high on.
I'm just curious what version of a UNC hoodie, rather, that he's going to come out with. Like, that's his bit, right? Like, is it going to be the Carolina blue, possibly white, gray? I'm really looking forward to this at the college ranks. A lot of hype around this season opener, as you mentioned just a minute ago, Chip. With that, of course, the UNC greats, they got to show up, they got to show out. Among them, that includes Michael Jordan. I'm hearing Mia Hamm's going to be there, Julius Peppers, Eric Church, Chase Rice. Chip Patterson also will be in attendance. You got to be fired up, my guy, to have a front row seat to this one.
Yeah, the group chats are popping off. I'm not going to lie about this. I mean, the walk through campus all the way down into the stadium is going to be quite a scene. They've done a lot in terms of bringing back old traditions that former coach Larry Fedora started to do away with. And so they will be starting at the Old Well, one of the most iconic landmarks on campus, and doing a long walk all the way down to Kenan Stadium. All of the tailgating scene, all of the band parties at the frat houses, wristbands only, Jordan. And do I have access to wristbands? That's TBD. I'm still waiting for the answer on the group chat there.
I love it. Let's get to some game talk, shall we? Tonight, obviously, this UNC defense will see one of the many talented quarterbacks in the Big 12 and TCU's Josh Hoover. What is going to be key to slowing him down, Chip?
It's going to really start to be allowing TCU to get stuck in 3rd and long scenarios, because while we are excited about Josh Hoover and what he can do within this TCU offense, really what TCU wants to do is run the football and let the run set up the pass. Because if North Carolina has to commit more bodies to the box to stop the run game, well, then that's going to allow for some one-on-one opportunities. And this North Carolina secondary, as John mentioned earlier, I like the transfer portal pieces, whether it is Thaddeus Dixon, the rest of that group, some players in the back seven like Kamori House, who came over from Washington. I think that what North Carolina really needs to do to slow down Josh Hoover isn't really necessarily defending the pass. It is making sure that you can stop the run and put them in 3rd and long scenarios, so that way you aren't really overwhelmed at the line of scrimmage. TCU, we think about them wide open throwing the ball. They want to run first, so North Carolina has to stop the run and make life difficult and make things a little bit more predictable for Josh Hoover.
It's crazy. It was just 3 years ago this TCU team was on top and in a national championship. Did they deserve to be there? Debatable. We all know how that ended. However, how can Sonny Dykes get this TCU team back on top in the Big 12, John?
Yeah, I think he did a good job kind of getting back on track last season. Like you said, you had the high of making it to a national championship game. They probably wanted to burn that tape with the way they lost to Georgia, but a lot of pressure coming the following season, and they disappointed in many ways. It's hard to keep reaching those heights, especially at a program like TCU. But I think last season, getting back on track, getting to 9 wins, gives them some positive momentum. Chip's talking earlier about Josh Hoover, a guy who threw for almost 4,000 yards a year ago, one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. And I think what's, great about the Big 12 is that it feels so up in the air. I personally probably the most into Utah. They had a great performance this weekend. That was my preseason pick to win the Big 12. But you look across the board, there's so many teams that you can talk yourself into. And I think TCU is a team that when you talk to people around college football this offseason, was one that a lot of people liked. They liked the way that they've built things back up after falling behind a couple of years ago. And they've built around Josh Hoover in a way that I think, should lead to big things this year. And I think people almost forget that, despite all of the attention around UNC and all of the Bill Belichick talk, TCU's a favorite in this game. People like TCU to have a really good season. And I think that's probably not getting enough talk about as we think so much about, Belichick and Hoodie Bill coming back to Chapel Hill.
You mentioned the Horned Frogs are favored in this game by 3.5. Let's win some money on this game, Chip Patterson. How about it? The total sitting at 55.5. What's the best play, though?
Okay, quick prop. I'm going to say gray hoodie with the NC logo in the middle. Okay, that'll be my prop. Okay. I think that's going to come at about plus 300. But the best bet here, Jordan, I'm going to go first half under 27.5. If you've been tracking this one, heading into the week, we were at 58.5. It got down to 56.5, and it has been doing a nosedive in terms of the full game total. So let's not jump in at a bad number, Jordan. Let's find the better spot to do it. As these two teams feel each other out, as North Carolina has to break in a new starting quarterback in Gio Lopez and also wants to make sure that TCU doesn't just light up the scoreboard and force them to really chase the game, I could absolutely see North Carolina going with an approach where they're running the football, playing field position, and trying to make sure that they can get into halftime to make the first set of adjustments. So the best bet with the way that the full total has been dropping is to just isolate the first half under 27.5.
Chip, I'm loving these first half unders to start the season. Last week, or actually just 3 days ago, it hit. He had Texas, Ohio State. I did take that. So let's keep handing out some winners, shall we? Get more best bets from Chip Patterson and the guys on the Cover 3 podcast. You can scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your pods.